to wield so much power.
That power will be your prison.
And I will set us all free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about World of Warcraft and the WoW Killer. Now you might be thinking, Callum, we've heard this all before. Everything is apparently the next WoW Killer. But what if I told you that WoW was the WoW Killer? That's right, World of Warcraft for the longest time has just been self-harming over and over again. These guys used to be the king of MMOs, and that's coming from me, someone who used to play WoW 24/7 for years. There was a time where you couldn't drag me away from WoW for anything. It doesn't matter whether it was the next big game or an old game that's become popular. You could not drag me away from WoW. And the same went for the majority of my friends group. So, what changed? Now, the thing that sparked me to make this video was the recent revelation of Asmongold moving to Final Fantasy. This was enough for me to look into this and see what the recent events were that have really solidified people's move to Final Fantasy. For the last 6 years, World of Warcraft has been that dude in your DMs telling you that he's going to come round and give you that dick, trying to hype himself up. Until, of course, he comes round your house and busts in 2 seconds. This has been WoW for the last 6 years. They are incredibly good at hyping up their trailers. Their cinematics and trailers are second to none. I will tell you that now, and I will tell you that in 5 years' time. Their cinematics are flawless. They are incredible. They are possibly the best cinematics I've seen for any games, ever. Hands down. And that it works. It hypes people up. I have fallen for this for 4 of those 6 years. I go back every time. I see the cinematic and I'm like, yes, I am ready for this. This is going to be the redemption arc. After playing this expansion that has been in development for the last 2 years for only a week, I'm basically out of content. Out of meaningful content. And recently, that has been a story that I've heard on repeat. Each expansion, each person, it's the same thing. WoW has strayed so far from what it once was that they've lost their grip on the MMO genre. Now, in the past, people have always said, WoW is dying, WoW is dying. No, other MMOs were spawning, and WoW was having to share the market with them. That is not proof of an MMO dying. That is proof of another MMO thriving. So what's changed now? Aside from the constant disappointment of every expansion, hyping themselves up and then just showing off nothing but a flaccid penis, it's essentially, WoW has become so corporate in the last few years. Since the acquisition by Activision, they've lost their grounds. They've lost their path. They're no longer what they used to be. They used to be a passionate team of people. And they were really good at that. They were so connected to the player base that they were an unstoppable force. Now, with every unstoppable force, there is an immovable object. And that immovable object is the player base. And what do I mean by that? The player base has decided that they're not going to take the BS any longer. They are not going to settle. When WoW was the only big MMO that that didn't have to fight for any sort of market share, there was no competition. WoW could sit there and remain unchanged, and players wouldn't really have any other options. Now, I know, most of you are probably going to say, but RuneScape has always been around. And I'll tell you something. Me and the majority of my guild in WoW played both at the same time. They weren't competing against one another. In fact, they were in such different spaces that you could play both at the same time. And I don't mean, play one day, play one in the evening. I mean literally at the same time. If I was raiding in WoW, I could be AFK woodcutting in RuneScape. They literally did not steal time from one another. Now you've got games like Final Fantasy 15 that has come in and truly challenged WoW. Now, it's been doing this for years. This isn't a new revelation. But what is new is the landslide of people leaving WoW. It started off with a lot of smaller WoW content creators changing over to Final Fantasy. This has been going on for years. And if I'm honest, I think Asmongold has been the boulder that started rolling now. Originally, it was little YouTubers, 20k subscribers, up to 100k subscribers. The little pebbles and rocks rolling down a hill one by one, or, a few at a time. And now they've triggered a boulder. Asmongold has possibly just caused a mass exodus. And in fact, I don't even say possibly. He has. It's factually proven. In his recent VOD I was watching, and he started streaming Final Fantasy 15 on the 3rd or 4th of July. And a mere few days after that, Final Fantasy sales had spiked so high that they somehow sold out of digital copies, or keys, shall we say. Their servers are more alive than they have ever been. And this is not to say that they were ever dead. This is such a surge that I've even asked friends of mine who have been playing Final Fantasy 15 for the last 5 years, and they have said to me that these servers have never been so alive as they have in the last 2 weeks. And this is a very dangerous place for the king of MMOs, for World of Warcraft, because Final Fantasy have a new expansion, Endwalker, around the corner. This is not a recipe for disaster, but I would say a recipe for change. Because normally, WoW try to counter Final Fantasy's expansion releases with their expansion announcements. They like to make people hold off. Honestly, WoW's got nothing to announce to counter this now. I think we are about to see a king fall from its throne. I quit at the end of Battle for Azeroth, and I will tell you what my experience was. 3 patches back to back, 6 months apart, 5 months apart. And all they gave you was a raid, 2 new dungeons, and a quest line that was dragged out over 6 to 12 weeks. Each week, you would get about 60 minutes of questing, maybe an hour and a half. And other than that, you'd log in twice a week for your raid, for your weekly raid nights, if you had a team. If you didn't have a team, you logged in for 60 minutes to do LFR. Other than that, if you were really low geared, you'd probably do the new dungeons. You'd probably do a bit of Mythic Plus. But again, you're running out of things to do on a weekly basis. And if you're the sort of player that's sat there itching for something to do, well, you're not going to find it. Unless you want to go back and do old content, which most people who've just joined the game don't want to. They want to be doing things that are going to progress their character now. Going back to do old things isn't going to progress your character. And in a game that is so heavily revolvent around progress, you're not selling it to your players. And you've been failing to do that for the last 5 years. Maybe even the last 6 or 7. If you look at the graph of players that have subscribed to World of Warcraft across the time, you'll notice a very big trend. As I said earlier, in fact, it's like somebody trying to do kick-ups with a ball, and they're not quite good at it. If you've ever seen a child try to learn to do kick-ups with a ball, they get that initial boost, and then lower, then up again, but not quite as high as the last kick, down again. New release comes out, boom, we're back up, but not quite as high as the last one. And it's just this sinking, this thing that's... They're stemming the flow of people leaving, which is incredible. That they can even do that. They can bring people back for an expansion launch, but then they go dry for 6 months. No content. Do you know what doesn't have that problem? Final Fantasy. RuneScape. All these other games. They're successfully putting something out. I've heard of people that have left World of Warcraft for League of Legends, and these games aren't even in the same league. One is a MOBA and one is an MMO. There is a MOBA that people are going to that has more content than an MMO. That, ladies and gentlemen, is possibly the scariest bit of it all. WoW is no longer just competing for your money and your time in the MMO space. It's now competing with games that don't even share the same genre. And it's kind of scary. I'll encourage people to do their own research on this because I don't want to give hard facts and numbers that I'm not 100% on. But I believe that the dips in WoW's subscription numbers as well hardcore correlates to the release of popular MMOs and new things that are coming out. And I'm going to say this in the next 5 days or the next week or the next month when New World releases fully. You're going to see a downtrend in WoW subscriptions. I can guarantee that. Do you want to know how I know that? I'm one of them. I was tempted to come back to WoW and then I saw New World. Is New World perfect? Nope. Is it going to replace WoW? I don't think so. Is it going to offer me some content and experiences that I've not seen before in the first month? Yes, it is. And this is where WoW has failed. They are so stuck in their ways that they will not innovate. And the player base have noticed that. I truly think we are about to see the death of WoW. And it is WoW that is to blame. Never in my life did I think I'd be making a video about the WoW killer. I didn't think it could happen. But WoW is the WoW killer. And that's truly sad to see WoW's fall from grace. If you're watching this as it premieres, we're going to be live over on Twitch right now. Our game jam is just starting and it's not too late to enter. Once again, a massive thank you to our patrons. I definitely couldn't be doing any of this without you.